I'm Eric Ridley, and I practice estate planning law in California. Today I want to talk about something that's been driving me crazy for years: online DIY trusts. I see the aftermath of these fill-in-the-blank disasters in my office almost weekly, and I need to warn you about what you're really getting when you pay $99 for a trust online. Let me start with the most basic problem I see. A trust needs a trustee to function. That's not optional. But I regularly review online trusts that have no provision for what happens when the trustee dies, becomes incapacitated, or simply doesn't want to serve anymore. I had a client come to me after her husband died. He'd created an online trust and named himself as trustee. When he passed, there was no successor trustee named. The family had to go to court to get someone appointed. The whole point of having a trust is to avoid court. But they ended up there anyway, spending months and thousands of dollars on something that should have been a simple transfer. Here's another one that makes my head spin: missing contingent beneficiaries. Online trusts often let you name your kids as beneficiaries. But what if your child dies before you? I've seen families where the primary beneficiary predeceased the parent, and there was no backup plan. The assets ended up in probate because the trust didn't account for this basic possibility. Then there's the trust naming issue. I know this sounds minor, but I've seen online trusts where the name changes throughout the document. Sometimes it's the Smith Family Trust, other times it's John Smith Trust, and maybe Smith Revocable Trust somewhere else. Try explaining to a bank or title company which trust actually owns the assets when the document can't even keep the name consistent. One of the things that frustrates me most about these online trusts is how generic they are. I spend time with my clients understanding their family dynamics, their concerns, their unique situations. Online trusts don't care if you have a child with special needs, a son-in-law you don't trust, or a daughter who struggles with addiction. They give you the same cookie-cutter language regardless of your actual family. I also see online trusts that are missing no contest clauses. These clauses discourage family members from challenging your trust in court. Without them, disgruntled heirs feel free to file lawsuits. I've watched families tear themselves apart in litigation that could have been prevented with proper drafting. Here's something that really gets complicated. What happens when one spouse dies? Can the surviving spouse make changes to the trust? Online trusts often leave this completely unclear. I've seen surviving spouses paralyzed because they don't know if they can modify provisions to deal with changed circumstances. But the worst problem I see is vague distribution language. I reviewed an online trust last month that said assets should go to beneficiaries in equal shares. Sounds clear, right? Except the trust named children and grandchildren as beneficiaries without specifying whether grandchildren only inherit if their parent is deceased or if they inherit alongside the children. That ambiguity is headed straight for a courtroom. I had another case where an online trust said to distribute assets for the benefit of my children. One child interpreted that as equal shares. Another thought it meant based on need. A third believed it meant the trustee had complete discretion. 3 siblings. 3 different interpretations, 1 expensive lawsuit. People choose online trusts because they think they're saving money. A few $100s versus a few thousand for professional drafting seems like a no-brainer. But I've seen families spend $50,000 or more fixing problems that proper drafting would have prevented. The real cost isn't just money. It's the stress, the family relationships destroyed by litigation, the years of uncertainty while courts sort out ambiguous language. I've watched adult children stop speaking to each other over trust disputes that never should have happened. When I draft a trust, I'm thinking about all the ways things can go wrong and building in protections. I consider your specific family situation, California law requirements, tax implications, and how your assets are actually owned. Online trusts can't do any of that. I'm not saying this because I want more business. I'm saying it because I've seen too many families suffer from false economy. Estate planning isn't just about having documents. It's about having documents that actually work when your family needs them most. If you're thinking about using an online service, ask yourself this: when something goes wrong, who are you going to call? The website doesn't have a phone number, and they certainly won't represent your family in court when their template fails. Your family deserves better than a form downloaded from the internet. They deserve a plan that actually protects them and honors your wishes. That's what real estate planning provides, and that's why the investment is worth it.